What's going on, everyone? I'm Bob Wire, and welcome to My Two Cents. Haven't got a chance to pump out another video as soon as I kind of wanted to. Kind of been caught up. Just had some home projects going on. But I'm very happy that I get the opportunity to stop through and just give my perspective. You know, what I like to do here, like I'm speaking off the cuff. I try to stay closely tied to the facts as much as I can. When I'm being opinionated about something, I'm going to let that be known that that's what I'm doing. I'm being opinionated. And when I'm coming from a place of fact, you will know it. Because that's what's important to me. I think that's what's more important putting out into this social media sphere these days is being fact-based, because there's nothing wrong with having your own opinion. We all have them, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But the moment we start elevating our opinions into a space of being a fact, that's where the issues pop up at. So, you know, what I like to do here is, you know, I just want to talk about just various issues, whatever just might, you know, come through my mind. You know what I'm saying? Just thoughts that might come in, particular subject matter or whatever the case may be. It might be movies. It might be some funny stuff in the entertainment world. More than likely, knowing me, it'll probably be very politically, socially based, you know. But so I kind of want to get right to it, right? I want to hold you guys up too much. You know, I know time is precious, right? So obviously we know that more information has spilled out of the Epstein emails that's been going on, right? So that's kind of been a real hot topic, if you know what I mean.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let me tell you. All right, let's start it off. The U.S. Justice Department has confirmed it will investigate pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein's alleged link to major banks and several prominent Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would ask Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI to look into the Epstein involvement and relationship with Clinton and others. Bondi said the department will pursue this with urgency and integrity. I mean, how ridiculous. That sounds so utterly ridiculous, right? Anything dealing with Pam Bondi or Trump himself littered in integrity is just completely asinine. I think most of us could agree with that, right? Trump's request came days after thousands of Epstein emails were released by the U.S. Congress, which includes mentions of the U.S. president. Democrat has accused Trump of trying to deflect from questions about his relationship with Epstein. So there's a lot that's been going on with this. When we start to peel back the onion, if we will. I'm sure a lot of people heard about the whole Danica Lewinsky situation. Apparently, in one of the Epstein emails, it was mentioned about, do you think Putin's got the photos of Trump blowing Bubba? Allegedly, there's a lot of people circulating around the internet saying that Bubba may be former President Bill Clinton. You know, he once went by the name Bubba, for the younger folks that may not be aware of his presidency. You know, in my opinion, I think that he should embrace this right now. This might be probably one of the best moves for him to make, you know, being first gay president, you know. Might have to give a little round of applause for that. That may not be a bad thing right now. He might need to get a little bit more in this progressive angle right now, because he's in a whirl of hurt right now. But to get serious, guys, like, if you were a three-time Trumper, meaning that you voted for this imbecile 3 straight times, I don't know how much hope there is for the ability to critically think for you is, but I'm a bit of an optimist, right? And I'm holding out hope that maybe this right here would help wake you guys up. I mean, he campaigned literally on the idea of releasing the emails, and he's done everything to run, duck, and cover to get himself away from this. The alleged scandal, this is completely messy. I mean, guys, we had a president, leave office for less, right? We had a president get impeached for getting head. So wouldn't it be fair that maybe we impeach a president for giving head, allegedly?
What do you mean by that?
I'm just being honest, right? I just want to stay on the side of allegedly. But this is what supposedly was an email. And I'm not a person that's sitting up there trying to get at a person if that so happens to be their lifestyle, being a man, being intimately involved with another man's tool. I mean, I'm a progressive up and down, so whatever floats your boat, right? Whatever makes you happy at the end of the day. So what I don't like, though, is when you have these people come out and they will literally pass legislation to hurt people in that particular lifestyle, and they do it out of hatred for their own selves. And that just seems to be so rampant in the conservative community. Like I had said before, whenever they come to town, they crash grind rap. And I truly believe a lot of conservative men are hella gay. I'm going to just keep it 1,000, like the kids would say. I think most of them are hella gay, right? And because of their Christian beliefs, right? Particularly the evangelical Christian beliefs, they were told that this is not acceptable behavior. So, they don't want to let that out of the closet. They want to continue to weaponize hatred against people of that lifestyle and collect votes and try to act as if they're on some sort of moral high ground. But like I've said many times before, and as I do more of these, I'll start diving even a lot more deeper into the whole religious aspect that seems to just really be deteriorating this country. I think that's actually a good moment to kind of even segue into what went down a couple of days ago. It was a situation that went viral. There was a young woman that she did a social experiment, right? Where I believe she called like 43 churches. She hit some of the real big ones. Try to see if I can remember the name. This guy name escapes me right now. You could bear with me for a sec. Yeah, one of them in particular, Joel Osteen, who has he's one of the biggest prosperity pastors that are out there. She called his organization. Forget the name of his particular church, Lakewood Church. This young lady, she would call she called 43, like I said, 43 churches, and she had a recording of a baby crying in the background, and she was letting them know that, it sounded very realistic, and she was letting them know that her baby was very hungry and needed to be fed, and if they could assist her in any manner to get her like a can of milk, you know. Get her a can of formula. I believe it was 33 of the churches that she called offered her no aid. They tried to give her a little bit of the runaround, a lot of them telling her, well, did you try this pantry? Did you try that? And then ultimately ran her off to the point where they said, I'm sorry, we can't assist you. And they always asked something that was in particular, too. At least the majority of them did, from what I heard. They were asking, were you a member of the church, right? As if that's what matters if you apparently got a baby that's hungry. Now, this is supposed to be the pro-life organization, right? I think we got to get it to the point now where we just got to call it for what it is. This has shit to do with pro-life. This is just a pro-birth organization, these churches. That's all they care about. They only give a F about that baby when it's in the womb. That's the only moment that they have vested interest in it. The moment it's pushed out and it's in the world and it needs childcare, it needs food, you know what I'm saying? You know, they're not concerned about it anymore. They don't want to hear about it. They don't care about if there's a father there at that point realistically or not, whether that's a single mother dealing with that child or not, or possibly maybe if it's just a single father dealing with the child as well, because these things happen too. They don't give a hell about any of that stuff. They only care about that child is when it's in the womb, right? So I think we gotta pump the brakes on these people when these people start coming around and talking all this pro-life BS. We have to kind of call them out. Now, there was about 10 churches that were willing to help her. One in particular, the one that actually sounded the most inclined to help her out was when she called Hamas. So the big scary Muslims, they were ready to jump to action to assist her. And the other organizations, they were like smaller churches, none as big as Joel Osteen or any of these bigger prosperity preachers. There was a good number of them that were black churches that were willing to help. And she spoke with like, you know, one of those white Southern accents, so you could kind of figure out what was going on. But here it is, this Muslim mosque was willing to jump in, and I'm pretty sure they had an idea that this was more than likely, quote unquote, a Christian Southern woman who probably had certain reservations about them, but they put that aside to want to help her out with this child that needs to be fed. And obviously, a lot of black churches stepped up to the plate, but not all. Not all. Not all.
But wait, there's more.
And it is, because there was a black pastor. I'm sorry, I don't have his name up. I'll mention it in another video. Pardon me. I just kind of jumped on the mic, so to speak. So I didn't get a chance to do a lot of preparation. Like I said, I had a lot of projects going on today, so bear with me, you know. Still trying to get back and get my my sea legs up under me, so, you know, pardon me. But there was one black pastor that he seems like he appeared to be one of those prosperity preachers, and he took the time out because she called his organization, and they told her right at pretty much at go, like, it ain't happening, right? And when that came out, then he starts talking in church about that this woman was pretty much a witch, a demon, for playing a game like that, and literally wanted to shame her. She's the bad guy, and calling her a liar. She's the bad person for playing this particular game. Not taking any accountability for the simple fact that they didn't jump to assist her or anything like that. Not looking at the fact that it wasn't that she was lying. She was performing a social experiment. And from what I understood, she told them such that, hey, this was not a real situation. Just want to see how your reaction would be. So where's the lie at? But this black pastor, older black gentleman, and he had his congregation in the back. And it was a lot of middle-aged folks, and I guess it's too late for those type of people, because ultimately those type of people, they're already propagandized, they're conditioned, they can't see nothing else but other than what good pastors say, and they were clapping and amening and all of this nonsense behind what this pastor was saying. I just wish that folks would wake up. That sort of rhetoric, that sort of holier than thou attitude that some of these leaders of the churches are taking, and it's being enabled by their congregation. But that's the reason why in Christianity, the numbers have been dropping realistically across the nation. Actually, the Muslim belief is actually more on the rise than Christianity at the moment. And a lot of that's happening because they're tired of these so-called leaders of the churches just worrying about getting the next $5-10 out of their pocket, and supposed to be some sort of oasis for help for the ones that are in need, and they're not doing such things. And that's why I've always questioned that we should not be allowing these organizations to be tax exempt, especially if they're not opening up their books to show how they're being charitable, quote unquote, right? That's what I find very problematic, because our tax dollars is picking that up. So here it is, they're evading paying tax dollars, right? You know what I'm saying? And being tax exempt and able to receive these donations, and are not required to show that they're donating to their community. It's literally a scam. And a lot of these head of these churches are conservative, right? But they seem to get quite socialistic when it's time to pass around the pot, right? When they ask for those donations, they seem to love that brand of socialism all of a sudden. You know? They love it. Give me, give me, give me, right? And I think people are getting tired of it. A lot of people are waking up and they're demanding more and expect more, you know? Especially for people who are in faith, right? They're looking for something, you know, higher than themselves, or maybe just want to hear just a good message, or just want to be in a place by people and feel encouraged, you know? Church should offer all those things. And it just doesn't feel like that's what's existing. That's not what's happening. That's not what's rocking in this space. I mean, that's roughly my 2 cents on that. There's a lot that I could continue on with that. I know I kind of moved away from what was going on with Trump and old Donica Lewinsky. Apparently glazing Bubba. Glazing. I don't know what these MAGAs are thinking now. How do they feel about this? Their so-called alpha male is involved with potentially glazing a male. It's bad enough dealing with children, you know, as far as with Epstein, the pedophile that he is.
Like teenage girls.
When you say teenage, how old are we talking?
When it comes to Epstein, the younger the better. And that might be the same thing for old Trump, right? Allegedly. I think more and more is going to spill out. He's trying his best to cause as much distraction, try to, do his, what he said, his weave, and trying to throw it back onto, let's look into these Democrats. Let's get this hot light off my neck. Scorching. It's hot. Damn it. I don't know. With all this stuff's going on, I'm not wishing any ailment on anybody, but I don't know. This might push him into a stroke at this point, Trump, right? He doesn't appear to be a very healthy male right now. And he's definitely suffering with dementia. That mental is not there. He's definitely off. But they would sit there, and I have to harp back at this. Kamala Harris question her qualification and her educational status. But this man is sitting here, and he's got chop suey for brains right now. And that's acceptable.
Wait a minute. I'm white.
I'm just saying. That's what seems to be going on. There's so much that's happening also in the Black MAGA sphere too. We got Officer Tatum being taken down by Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes calling these, it's realizing that it's time to spend these tokens, right? He's getting tired of these tokens up here, you know what I'm saying, penny pinching off the top. And he's looking to smash all that. And we got Officer Tatum all of a sudden now saying, after Nick Fuentes has called him the N-word, now saying that this man's being racist. Officer Tatum, wasn't it you that told us that racism does not exist? Huh?
Got him! Got him!
So what's the deal? All of a sudden, racism is real now? All of a sudden, when you being called out? We also have this other guy. I forget his full name. His name is Robert. He's a black YouTuber, queer guy, gay. He's one of the woodland creatures, aka Raccoon, and he's starting to cry and saying that if they don't purge out these groypers, which is what Nick Fuentes' crew is about, is gonna make black folks leave the Republican Party. I don't know how many black men they really think they actually got in that party. I know Candace Owens started many years back with that whole Blexit bullshit, but there was no large exodus to the right, to the Republican Party with black folks. But for the few coons that migrated that way, I know that they say that the Democratic Party is a Big Ten party, and I agree it is. But we don't need you guys. Y'all can hang out at the demilitarized zone, so to speak. Stay in a neutral area. We don't want you inside our camp anymore. You know, if you want to be helpful, just have a seat and don't vote. I think that's the best way you could help us. It's the best way you could repay everything. My 2 cents as far as with that. So there's a lot of war going on the right. And we got some stuff sparking up, quote unquote, on the left. We had Charlamagne the God from Power 105 Breakfast Club apparently shooting ad hominems at Roland Martin, who has a great show on YouTube, Roland Martin Unfiltered, coming at Roland Martin because Roland Martin corrected him on him putting out false information, especially in regards to that the Democrats has failed and they weren't able to win the battle. They should just give up, open up the government again, and he just said a lot of things that was not factual. And Roland Martin took the time out to call him out on that, and so did Roland Martin's panel. And some of them had some hard choice words for him, but it was necessary. And he responded back, attacking Roland Martin's weight and throwing out that Roland Martin's a hater and be hating on him. And I think at that point, when that's how you respond back, people, that's when you know that they lost the argument already, right? They're not standing on business, as we would say. They're starting to act like a petulant child, so they want to start calling names because they can't do anything else. But Roland Martin responded back to him and gave him a verbal spanking, respectfully, hit him with the facts, no ad hominem attacks, and also let him know that those quote unquote jokes he hurled his way, you know, if you want to call them that, just went right off his shoulders. He doesn't care about that. He's the adult in the room. And then obviously your favorite woodland creature, aka Charlamagne the God's daddy, Stephen A. Smith, bumping his gums again. Just bumping his gums again. Talking about why the Democrats didn't release this information with the emails prior. You know, he will find a way to spin the story no matter what it is. It could be obviously that the Republicans are in the dead wrong, and he would try to find his way to spin the story to somehow make it be about the left. And then want to sit there in front of us and say, I'm not a member of any party. I'm not a member of any party. I'm a centrist. You know, I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal. I'm an independent. Bullshit. Bullshit. You scream the loudest when it comes to people on the left. And you want to find and protect cover and give cover to Donald Trump and his goons. You come hard at the sisters, you know what I'm saying, and some of the brothers, like Jasmine Crockett. But then you turn around and on your show you talk about how Megyn Kelly is brilliant and she's a great friend of yours. You also said Bill O'Reilly is a great friend of yours. You also say Sean Hannity is a great friend of yours. When these are obviously people that are anti-ethical to the black progress, these are white supremacists, my man. They don't care about people that look like you. But you always have this pick-me mentality. And you think just because you got a couple of coins right now and you all the way up, that you think that that money somehow evaporates the melon. Doesn't, brother. Just ask Oprah Winfrey. See how she got treated. Everybody had that wake-up call, right? And time again, you've been corrected by a lot of people in the media, a lot of smart folks in the media, and you continuously make these stupid mistakes, which I don't even call them mistakes anymore. I think you're doing it with intentions. I think that you are absolutely a grifter. You say things so that you could get the attention and get the clicks. You want to just be provocative for the sake of being provocative. You're a clown.
It's one thing that if you want to kind of get clicks, you want to get some eyes on your product. But when you're doing it at the behest of harming people that look like yourself, how could that possibly be worth it, right? You're a man with no integrity. You're a prostitute. You'll be willing to sell yourself out. It's not even a thing. And when you buy into those people that say certain things about us and demean us as a people, speaking about black and brown folk, you make it hard for people that look like me, that don't share your same zip code, Stephen A. Smith. I kind of have, like, I'll tell you a little story on the side. I'll segue to that. Like, I was going to Home Depot this morning. I had some items I had to pick up. I'm not going to say maybe all the words that I said, obviously, but I was a little upset. But I frequent this Home Depot all the time. And there's this white officer that see me numerous times there at the store, right? So I'm pretty sure he knows me. There's times he acknowledged me when I leave in the store or whatever, you know, and you don't do the nod, whatever. And I was buying some items. So I went and I was using my card to make my payment, right? Because I was at the checkout, self-checkout. And my items came up to $95 or something like that, right? So I was using my card to pay. And it didn't go through for some reason, right? So I was like, what's going on with the card? So I called my wife, like, hey, is everything all right with the card? She's like, yeah. You know, check it again. You know, it should be fine. So I said, okay. So I went ahead and boom, you know, everything went through. So I don't know, it just glitched or whatever. So paid for the items, right? And then I was telling my wife, I was like, there was a particular, these plastics that she likes to put up to the window for insulation. There was like a two pack of it. It was made by Frost King, right? Help keep the cool air from coming in, you know? And she wanted me to pick that up from Home Depot. And I was like, man, I'm surprised that thing was like almost like $22 or whatever. I was like, just for 2 packs of plastics that go in the window. I didn't realize it would be that expensive. So she told me, she's like, no, that's expensive. She was like, you sure that's the price of it? I was like, you know what? I'm not too sure. I was trying to look through the receipt, but it was kind of hard to read it, man. You know, the way that those receipts sometimes are written up, it's like you're trying to read, you know, Hebrew or something like that. So I said, you know what? Let me scan it with the scanner, see what the price is. So boom, came up $22, whatever. So my wife's like, I could get it like on Amazon for like $7, whatever. So she said, look, just take the receipt, and because I know you got some things to do, and I'll return it, you know, the following day, whatever. So I'm like, okay. So she was like, don't lose the receipt. I was like, nah, I'm putting it in the bottom of the bag, whatever. So I put the receipt in there, and I put all my items in there and everything. So I'm getting to roll out. And then, you know, I just had, you know, it's that, I guess you would say that black intuition. I could tell that white officer, you know, he must have been looking at me even when I was looking at the receipt. I'm sure he looked at me and everything. And I don't know, maybe if he was wondering why I scanned that item again or whatever the case may be, whatever. And I felt, and my receipt wasn't readily available because it was in the bottom of the brown paper bag, whatever. And I thought he was gonna, you know, ask me for it, whatever, you know. And I was like, but why would he? He obviously saw me with the receipt, you know what I'm saying? And I was looking through it, so shouldn't be nothing. And when I was walking out, he it seemed like he was trying, like he was gonna say something, but he didn't. And then I continued to go on. So I had my headphones on or whatever. So I took my right ear off just in case he was saying something to me when I was leaving out. And like, you know, maybe like, hey, can I, you know, you mind if I see the receipt, whatever, and then produce it, whatever. But he didn't. So I went on, boom, put my headphones back on, and I was listening to whatever podcast. So I'm going through the parking lot, going to get my going to my vehicle, whatever, to put the stuff away so I can head home. And then it sounded like I might have heard something or whatever. So, you know, I turn around, you know, and I push my shop cart and I look, and it was him, and he looked like he was saying something. So I pull my right ear cup off my ear, and I was like, excuse me? And he said, apparently they say your card declined, right? And I said, nah, that's bullshit, because I knew what happened. It said that prior, but when I did it again, everything went through. And he was like, no, that's what it says. That's what it says. And I was like, that's bullshit. I said, I got my receipt. Whatever. He's like, you got a receipt? Then give it to me. So I'm like, talking a little spicy, more spicy than necessary. So I'm going through my bag, and then I pull out the receipt, produce the receipt. So he's looking at the receipt, and he's talking on his two-way radio, whatever, back to the store. And I'm just saying under my breath, like, this is some real bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you did see me in the store, and you saw me looking through my receipt. Obviously, you don't get a receipt if your card is declined, right? So if you have a receipt, it's obviously because you paid for the items, right? So I'm pretty sure you should know that. And you're an officer too, and you could have used your discretion. And let's say I conceded the fact that the store did say that to you. You could have very well told them, nah, I saw his receipt. Everything is all good. You're an officer. You have the right to do that. Also, I've never been too comfortable with an officer like literally being in the store, like the store security, because I feel like as taxpayers, why are we paying you, to basically be securing a store like a security guard? They should employ somebody to handle that, right? They got some security staff. What do they need you there for? Maybe you outside the store, around the store, well, okay, that's one thing. Maybe, make sure shoppers are okay, fine. But literally in the store, like, and maybe that's why he never asked me for a receipt, because I don't know, maybe legally he's not allowed to, or whatever the case may be. I'm not too sure about that. So nonetheless, when I'm talking under my breath and I'm like, this is ridiculous, this is bullshit. So he looks at me and he says, excuse me, I'm talking on the two-way radio. Like he's sunning me. So I said, what? I said I'm talking on the two-way radio. So I said, I don't give a bleep. Who are you talking to on the two-way radio? You talking to me right now, And then so he goes and retreat to I'll lock you up. I said, you go right ahead. Let me see you do that. I don't think you got the balls to do that. And if you try that, I will make it my mission to get your ass fired, because you'll be locking me up unlawfully. You have no damn reason to lock me up, because I'm talking under my breath while you're trying to hold a conversation with people in the store on the two-way radio. And so he's getting all upset. I said, and I called him out. I said, does this seem a little bit racist to me? I called it out. I felt it, and I spoke it. And I realize now in this space in my life, black folks, don't second guess yourself. You know when some racist business is going on. And especially when you're a man of a certain age or a woman of a certain age. If you want to know if racism is going on, ask a middle-aged black person. We know what time it is, right? And it kind of stunk of it. And I always did kind of had a little fishy feelings about the guy anyway. Like giving, that fake white boy love, Not all of them are that way, not at all. And I hate saying that, but I always want people to know that I'm never going to speak in absolutes when it comes to people, because nobody's a monolith, right? You obviously got some good white folks, and you obviously got a lot of bad white folks. Keep it a buck, right? But he struck me as one of those that when they see you, they can't see you for who you are. They can't hear you for what you're saying, because sometimes your blackness is so loud, they can't hear nothing else. So I'm going off on him, and I'm like, yeah, I'm challenging you. And then all of a sudden, this black dude comes running up. He's got a hat on. I think he works for Home Depot, probably part of their security staff or whatever. And he must have overheard what I was saying. He was like, hold on. He's not racist. And, no, the store sent him out, and it's got nothing to do with that. He's not racist. I said, hold on, my brother. Hold on, pause. I said, and what, you're playing the role as the magical Negro who comes along and lay his life on the line for massa? So I laid into him a bit. I said, you need to stop tap dancing and all of a sudden running and making, apparently making it clear that this guy right here, that's a coworker, of yours or a colleague, and claiming he's not being racist when you don't know what went on. And that's the problem I have with certain black folks, black and brown folks. They will run to the aid to support somebody that don't look like them, that's apparently in a position of authority trying to oppress it on somebody else that might look like them, and they won't run to their aid. They're going to run to the aid of that authoritarian figure that so happen to be less melanated. And you see that a lot. And it's disgusting. And I told him, you need to stop tap dancing like that, brother, because of people like you is why we have people like Trump. And we have this type of cat who I'm sure is a Trump supporter. So the way you're running to the aid for this guy, and I was telling him this, you think he would run to the aid for you? You think he would give two F's about you? And of course I'm keeping it medicinal. I might have said it a little harsher, but I had to make sure that he understood me and he felt me. And then he was like, I just don't want you to leave until this get cleared up, And I was like, well, nobody's going to stop me. I said, you're not going to stop me. I said, this officer don't have the right to stop me either. Because am I being detained? No, I'm not. And Home Depot don't have the ability to stop me. Okay? And I said, took my receipt back from the officer, and went along my way. Let's see. And this is a little cue that I'm going to give to some of my white brothers that might be in law enforcement. You have to be understanding that when you're dealing with certain black folks, especially some middle-aged, older black folks, that they're suffering with some level of PTSD. This is where I will get into absolutes. I believe all black and brown people, particularly the African Americans in this country, suffer from PTSD. This country makes you that way. We are always in a space where when we go into places to purchase items and stuff like that, at times we get that uncomfortable feeling, especially if we went into a place and maybe we didn't see what we needed and we decided not to purchase something or whatever, and we're leaving. The fact that we're leaving and not purchasing something, we start getting those feelings like, man, what, are they going to stop me? They're going to think I was stealing, whatever. Just for the simple fact that we have to deal with that. It's stressful. It puts strain on us. And then when you're coming and running behind us, when we've paid our hard-earned money for things, and talking stiff to us and think that we're supposed to be obedient to that, those days are over with. I don't care, even though you got a yellow baboon in office right now who's a white supremacist, that shit ain't gonna fly. Much respect to the people of the civil rights era that fought, that moved nonviolently. Never, no disrespect to them. Those are stronger people than our generation ever could be. But we're not going to move that way either. We're not going to just let you run roughshod over us like that either. It's a different time. It's a different era. And I'm not saying necessarily that it has to equate to violence, because I know anytime when we start saying that we're standing up for ourselves as men, they always wants to say, oh, the person is talking about violence, right? It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that we're going to speak up for ourselves. We're not going to allow this stuff to fly, right? We're tired of that. So to my white brothers in law enforcement that's not white supremacists, maybe tell your white supremacist partners that you got to sometimes deal with us a little bit more delicately, right? because we've endured a lot in this country. But I know it's going to be hard for them to accept it. And I'm talking about the ones that are white supremacists, because they love to put themselves in a victim mentality. They love to be the ones screaming on the corner that people trying to replace them. The black and brown boogeyman, the Muslims are coming, everything, Sharia law, you know. They're raping our women, you know. They're eating our cats, our dogs, like, you know. We have all these fuck nuts that are running around that want to play the victim card. But whenever we speak about what we went through in this nation and still currently going through, can you stop it already? Could you just go suffer in a corner in silence? You know? Can you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps? But whenever you calling them out on something, they're just like, oh my God, falling to their fainting couch, you know? Or is it J.D. Vance, you know, with couches? We know how he is with those couches, right? You want to be fucking them fainting couches, but you know what I mean, right? They wanna be the victims. They love it. They love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. They love being a victim. Because everything's been given to them throughout this nation, and they have no reason to feel like they're being held down or oppressed. And equality looks like oppression to these people. And when you want to stop and say, hey, no, this ain't right. No, I want to be treated equally. I want to have equal opportunities. They're like, this is just not fair.
Wait a minute. I'm white.
That's their mentality. It's unfortunate. Sure, we have a lot of white allies, and I say to those white allies, you got to check your brothers and sisters. Check them. When you hear them say things and do things that's harmful to a marginalized community, you got to step on their necks. And same go for our black and brown brothers. When we seeing them playing into white supremacy, you need to step on their necks too. I'm talking hyperbole too, guys. I guess say this every so often, because then they want to maybe flag you and say you're preaching violence. It's not about that. Okay. But you got to step to them and you got to tell them that this is not good behavior on both sides of the fences. Black and brown sisters that holds up the system structure of white supremacy, and the white brothers and sisters that are the white supremacists. You got to check these people. I know I did a little bit of rambling. There's a lot more I probably want to talk on. I don't really realize how long this video was going for. I want to thank you guys for stepping in, maybe listening for a few minutes. Hopefully, you were able to take something away from it. You know, if there's something you want to add to see me talk about, or if you agree or disagree, let me hear you. I appreciate you taking the time out your life, either way, to spend a few moments with me. And for that, I appreciate it. Peace, y'all.